Hi, my name is Amy Carlson. I'm a counselor here at Park Vista Community High School. And today's Coffee Talk presentation is navigating the college application process, how to search for and apply to colleges and universities. Of course, the college process can be extremely stressful, but it really doesn't have to be. It can actually be really fun and really exciting. So what we're hoping is that with this presentation, you can have the information you need to start the process early, to know what's in the process going in, and that can help alleviate a lot of the stress that comes with the college application process. So let's get started. First thing we're going to talk about is factors to consider when evaluating colleges. A lot of students go into the college application process with a school in mind that is their #1 school. They have a name that they're attached to, but they can't really tell you why. They just know that that's their #1 school. But there's so much more that goes into the college search process and the selection process than just the name of the school. So some things that you may want to consider when you're looking at colleges. First of all, the type of college. Are you looking at public schools, private schools? A lot of that may depend on what kind of financial aid you're going to need. Are you looking at a school with a particular religious affiliation? 2-year, 4-year, universities, liberal arts colleges, specialized colleges like art or music colleges. Are you looking at the military? Are these things that are important to you? And another thing is figuring out which of these things are actually important to you. Maybe not all of them will be, but some of them may be really crucial in what you're going to want in the school where you're going to spend the next 4 or more years of your life. Another thing you may want to consider is admission selectivity. What percentage of students are actually offered admission, not just in regular admission, but early? What is the range of GPAs and standardized test scores that are accepted? So students usually want to build a list with a good range of schools where they're likely to get in and schools that are reaches for them so that they'll have some choices at the end of the process. But you definitely want to have a balance there. You don't want to have only schools that are reaches where the student's really out of range with the numbers that are generally accepted there. And you also don't want to have just likely schools if there are schools that may be harder to get into that the student wants to get into. But you want to go in knowing what your odds are of getting in. Curriculum is very important to some students because if you have a school in mind and they don't have the major that you're interested in, you're going to end up transferring, and that can get very expensive and just disruptive to your life. So if you have a major in mind, you definitely want to go to the school that has that major and is good at that major. You may want to know about advisement on selection of major. If you don't know what you want to do, how do they help you find that? ACE and AP equivalency could be very important to some students because that saves you money, and you'll have to take less classes to earn your degree. And so you'll want to know which of your ACE and AP classes are going to count for college credit at that school. And that is not the same throughout the country. So that's something that you may want to look into if that's important to you. What departments are strong at the school? What kind of pre-professional training do they have? If you want to be a doctor, do they have pre-medical advising? That's something you may want to look at. What courses do you have to take in high school in order to be admitted? That's something that you may want to look at too. Intellectual atmosphere. Some schools will let you just create your own major. Are you the kind of student that can deal with that kind of freedom and wants that kind of freedom, or do you want a very structured curriculum? That might be something important to you that you might want to look at in your research. What kind of political or social atmosphere is on campus? That might be something that's important to you too, depending on your outlooks in those realms. You may want to know what's the political climate on campus. What percentage of students return after freshman year? That might be important for you because that can really tell you something about the school. If they have a high turnover rate and a lot of students are transferring, you might want to know why. Also, the percentage of students who graduate in 4 years or more than 4 years. How much time do you want to spend in college and money? So that might be something that you may want to look at. Student-faculty ratio may be important to you. Some students really need one-on-one attention from a professor, and if you're going to an extremely large university, there's a good chance you're going to be in some big lecture hall classes where you're not going to get to know your professor. You're not going to get to ask one-on-one questions. You're going to have to be really good at note-taking. And for some students, that doesn't work. So you may want to know, what is the student-faculty ratio and how accessible are the teachers to students? Academic assistance and support services. Students who have learning disabilities or other kinds of disabilities may need to have advising and support. They may need mental health support. They may need academic support. So if that's something that you've been getting throughout high school and you feel that you really need it in college, that might be the #1 thing that may be important for you when looking at a college. Career preparation. How prepared will you be to go into a career straight out of college? What percentage of students at that college graduate and go straight to work? And where are they going to work? That might be something that you may want to know before you decide on your school. Other factors to consider: geographic location. I think especially in Florida, we know that that can be a big deal because it's not that easy to get out of Florida and just go to different states. It can get extremely expensive if you're going to an out-of-state school and you're going to want to come home for holidays, birthdays, summer. That can be really expensive. Another thing about geographic location is, do you want a rural school, a suburban school, a large city? Those campuses are very different from each other. You know, in a rural school, you may have your campus all in one place and all around you is just farm, and there's no store that you can walk to. There's everything that you need is going to be on campus. Is that okay with you, or would you rather be in a city where you have all of these other resources around that you can just walk to? That's a matter of preference, and if you are in a place that you're not comfortable as far as that's concerned, that can be really uncomfortable. Climate obviously can be important. You know, if you're looking at a school in Alaska and you're from Florida, you might want to visit there to see what that's all about. Do you like the cold? Do you like snow? That's something you may want to think about when you're looking at schools. Size can be really important too, like I mentioned about the student-faculty ratio. For students who have social anxiety, let's say, or get very overwhelmed with being around a lot of people, a very large public university may not be the best choice for them. You may want to look at small or medium colleges and visit some campuses to get a feel of what that actually means. Sports can be very important to some students. That may be a make or break thing for some students. What sports are available, male, female, and co-ed? Are they D1, D2, D3? Can you play intramural? And how are the athletic facilities? Are they new or are they not so great? Something sports enthusiasts may want to look at. Other factors to consider: the student body, male to female ratio may be important to you. Diversity may be important. Differences in geographic, cultural, ethnic, racial, religious, and academic and socioeconomic backgrounds may be important to you. Facilities, do they have co-ed or single-sex dorms? Do they have alternate resident options? I had a student once who the #1 thing that she wanted was she had to have her cat living in the dorm. So that narrowed down the schools that we looked at because only so many schools allow a pet in a dorm. So that might be something that's a make or break thing for a student. Computer facilities, health services, counseling services, bookstores, laboratories, art studios, all of those things may be things you want to look at when you're thinking about colleges to choose. Campus activities, what kind of things are they doing on campus? Are they very politically active? Are they very athletically focused? Is Greek life a big deal on campus? Some things you may want to look at. You may not want a party campus. You might want a really intellectual atmosphere all the time. Or you may want a party campus. I mean, there's no judgment there, but it is a preference that you may want to look at before you commit yourself to 4 more years of your life on that campus. Cost is always important, but some people don't realize sometimes cost affects the admission decision. So you may want to know, is the school need blind or need aware? Meaning, do they base their admissions decision on whether or not you can pay, or are they going to provide the money for you if you cannot pay? Do they meet 100% of demonstrated need is something that you may want to look at if cost is a concern for you. Do they have merit-based scholarships? Do they give scholarships based on need, meaning you need the money to go to school? Merit, meaning you may have taken a really rigorous curriculum and gotten great grades, or both? And what percentage of students receive aid? Cost per year is something you should look at, and I'm sure many do, including tuitions and fees, and that's including after Bright Futures and Florida prepaid. There will still be fees that you'll have to pay. How much is room and board? How much will the travel be? And how important is that to you? And finally, how is aid packaged? What percentage of the financial aid package is grant, which is money you don't have to pay back, loans, which is money you will have to pay back, and work study, which is working on campus and earning your own money on campus. And are you willing to borrow money to offset costs, and how much are you willing to borrow? Other factors to consider is, what are the application options at the school? So how soon will you be ready to apply to the schools? So rolling admissions, most of the Florida universities are rolling. And if you see that word rolling, that means you want to submit your application as early as possible, if possible, no later than October 15th of senior year. With rolling admissions, applications are accepted and students are accepted on a rolling basis until the seats are full. So the later you wait in that process, the less likelihood of getting in. It gets more competitive just simply because there are less seats as they go on. So it's always advantageous for rolling schools to apply as early as possible to increase your chances of getting in. Early decision is usually the deadline's by November 1st or November 15th, and that is a binding application. That is a binding contract. So if you apply early decision to a school, you are required, and also your school counselor is required, to sign a contract that says you will definitely attend that school if you're accepted. So that's a huge decision to make. It's not something that should be taken lightly. If that's your #1 school and you know that you definitely want to go there and they have early decision, it's a great way to go. It increases your chances of getting accepted. But if you're not sure, you should never apply early decision. Early decision 2 is a second round of early decision, so some schools might have that. If you don't get into your first choice school early decision, you can apply early decision 2. It has a later deadline. It is still a binding contract though. So again, a big decision that you don't want to make lightly. Early action is pretty common. It is not binding, but it's an early deadline, and you'll get an early decision. So usually the deadlines are also November 1st and November 15th. You're notified early, but you don't have to attend there if you are accepted. If you see an early action deadline, take that, because first of all, your chances of getting in increase, but also your chances of getting scholarships will increase. A lot of times those deadlines are for scholarship consideration. So if you apply after that deadline, you still might get in, but you're not going to get the financial aid you would have gotten if you had met that early deadline. Other kinds of application options, restrictive and single choice early action are extremely rare, but you are not, so with restrictive and single choice early action, you're not required to attend the school if you're accepted, but you cannot apply early action to any other school. Very few students will probably run into that. Early notification or priority plans are a lot like early action. So usually November 1st, November 15th, December 1st deadlines, and those are usually for scholarship consideration. So again, if you see a priority or early notification, try to make that deadline, because you'll be better off in the long run in admission and in scholarship consideration. Some schools may offer an alternative to fall admission. One would be January admission, where they will give you an option to matriculate in the second semester of freshman year. Guaranteed transfer is when they will give you an option to go to another school, usually a community college, for 1 or 2 years, and then they guarantee that you can transfer into the college that you applied to after completing that. So generally that means that they like what they see in your application. They don't think you're quite ready for that university yet, but they're going to give you this opportunity to eventually get your degree from that university with this guaranteed transfer option. Summer admission is offered to students who don't initially meet a college's admission criteria. So maybe their GPA or their test scores are a little low, but the school sees potential in them. So they'll invite them to enroll in the summer so that they can get some extra support moving into the fall. So those are some things that colleges may offer that you may want to consider. Are these things that they offer, especially if your numbers are a little low for the school? Is there another alternative that you could possibly get in? Something you might want to look at. The college search. So this is the fun part, in my opinion, but I guess it depends on what your definition of fun is. So of course, like everything else in our world right now, one of the primary sources for college information is the internet. Colleges have their own websites that will have a ton of information, really specific information about curriculum, professors, all of their statistics and all that, academic majors, financial aid, student life. And then there are hundreds of other websites, and there are so many websites for the college search that it may actually become overwhelming. So I just wanted to narrow, for this presentation, I wanted to just narrow it to this one, which is Big Future by College Board. This is a site I really love. I use it all the time, and I especially love it for students because it's free, it's easy to use, and most students already have a College Board account. So I'm just going to show you this short video that introduces Big Future by College Board.
With thousands of colleges and universities out there, finding the right one can feel overwhelming. Big Future's College Search is a powerful but easy-to-use tool that helps you figure out what's important and then find colleges that match. For students who aren't sure where to start, there's a simple tutorial that walks through college options. Start by selecting the criteria that's most important to you, in categories ranging from location, cost, and majors to housing and campus diversity. Go in any order and skip the questions you aren't sure of. You can answer as many or as few questions as you like. As soon as you make a selection, College Search instantly generates results behind the question window. You can immediately see the impact of your search criteria on the number of matches and on the colleges that appear. All your selections are summarized on the left, so you always know what you're searching on. For every question, there's guidance available to help you understand your options and make an informed choice. Videos play right within the tool, providing perspective from real students and expert advice.
Students often think that you have to know what you want to major in or what you want to do for the rest of your life in order to do your college search process, and that is just so far from the truth.
For most students, some college preferences are must-haves. The college has to have them, while other preferences are just wants. Big Future's College Search helps you prioritize your criteria. Each college preference has a slider where you can weigh the importance. You can drag the slider from must to want, or even don't care. Again, you can instantly see how this impacts your matches. Play around until you're happy with your settings. When you've decided you're interested in a college, you can drag the college's card down to a personal organizer at the bottom of every page. To save more than a few colleges, you'll need to log in. If you don't already have an account, creating one is free and easy. Clicking on individual schools brings up comprehensive information presented in bold, engaging graphics and charts. On the At a Glance page, a checklist shows you which of your preferences the college matches and which it doesn't. Once you've set your preferences, you can compare any college this way. Then you can explore other things that interest you, like available majors or student-faculty ratios. Campus Life provides in-depth information on the student body, housing, and campus activities, quickly identifying unique characteristics of each school. An academic tracker shows you how you compare to any school. You can enter your high school courses and tests you've taken and see if you're on track to meet application requirements or need to adjust your plan. Using the tabs on top, you can enter your SAT and ACT scores, your GPA, and other stats. This will show you how you stack up to other students who applied. Then, by saving your scores, you can easily see these stats when viewing other schools. After you decide you are interested in a school, you can scroll up and easily add it to your college list with one click. College Search on Big Future is a powerful resource for college planning, combining simple selections with integrated guidance to create a college list that fits every student. And once you have your list in hand, Big Future does even more to keep you on the path to college.
All right. Couple of things that they didn't show there that I just want to point out that I love about Big Future. I chose University of Miami because they have a regular decision deadline, they have early decision, and they have early action. So I just wanted to show you how you can use the numbers on Big Future to look at how much your opportunities are increased with the early options. So if you look at the regular applications, you can see at University of Miami that they have a 32% overall admission rate. If you look at the early decision numbers, 56% of early decision applications are accepted. So you can see there how much early decision increases your chances of admission. It's almost twice the overall rate, the early decision rate. And that's because they know when you apply early decision, you are definitely going to attend. So then you look at the early action acceptance rate. The early action acceptance rate is 44%. So still much higher than the overall rate. So I just wanted to illustrate here how important it is that if you see that they have that early action or priority deadline, get it in by that deadline because it really increases your chances of being accepted to the school. Another thing on Big Future that I really love, if you click on the school and you look at the tabs there, they showed you the academics and GPA and the SAT and ACT scores. But I love this What's Important tab because this information comes from the school and they'll tell you right here what is important to them. So academic GPA, application essay, character and personal qualities are important to them. They find that out through your essay and your recommendations. Class rank, extracurricular activities, recommendations, rigor of your school record, and standardized test scores. They put all of those under the very important category. But under that is the important category. They also consider talent and ability to be important. Volunteer work and work experience are also important to University of Miami. And they will consider alumni relations, so meaning if you had usually a parent or a grandparent who attended and graduated from the school, if you're first generation, if you're the first in your family to go to college, geographic residence, level of interest they will consider. So how do they gauge your level of interest? Well, they gauge your level of interest by how you apply. Did you apply early? Did you visit campus? Did you send an email expressing your interest? These are all ways that they will gauge the level of interest. And racial and ethnic status is also considered an admission at University of Miami. And I love this little box here that'll be in every college on Big Future. It's a note from the college, and the college tells you directly, transcripts, standardized test scores, letters of recommendation, extracurricular activities, and essays are most important. So you know going in what's important to that school. And of course, the best internet resource is the Park Vista School Counseling website. This is where you're going to find all of the most updated information that's specific to our students at Park Vista. So you would go to Park Vista Community High School, students and parents, school counseling department, and college information. You're going to find our handbook. You're going to find information on all the Florida universities and a wealth of other information on the college search and selection process there. All right, next we're going to talk about campus visits and other live research. So with COVID, campus visits have changed a little bit. Some colleges are not offering live visits at all anymore right now. I shouldn't say anymore, but right now. But some of them are still offering tours. They're just offering them with a smaller group. So if you're interested in visiting a campus, and of course we strongly suggest that you do visit campuses, just call the school and check with them if they're doing tours. Visiting campus is the absolute best way to get a feel for whether or not that school is a good fit for you. Like I said earlier, sometimes students get the name of a school in their head and they're like, that's the only school for me and that's the only one I go to. Then they visit campus and they're like, wow, I really don't like the vibe here. It doesn't feel good. Or they may go and say, and it may confirm for them that that is the school for them. But it's really important to see different types and sizes of colleges and universities so that you can really get a feel for where you want to be and where you feel comfortable. Parents who are watching, remember the campus visit is for the student. Let the student take the lead because this is where the student's going to be for the next few years of their life. And the more attached that the student is to the campus, the less likely they are to transfer or drop out. So let the student take the lead on the whole college process, really. Ownership in the college process is a really good predictor of good outcomes in college. So when you're planning your visit, of course, contact the college, find out what tours and info sessions are given. You can call the admissions office or go right on their website usually. If possible, try to schedule a visit when classes are in session because that's when you can really get a real feel for what life is like on that campus. If you go on the weekends, it may be kind of deserted or people may be sleeping and you're not really going to get a feel for how people are on campus. Some colleges will provide an overnight experience. You may want to ask about that. You can sometimes sit in a class, meet with a particular professor or coach. You can visit academic support services. So you want to arrange all of that ahead of time to make sure that whatever it is that's important to you, you get to do that while you're on campus. You may also want to ask about the possibility of an interview. Some schools will offer interviews. They will be informational interviews. So that means that you get to ask questions. They'll give you information that won't be used in the admission process, except for that tracking interest piece that we saw like at University of Miami. They may put that in your file to say this student was that interested that they asked for an interview on campus. So that might be something you might want to do. Before you visit, find out as much as you can about the school. Prepare some answers that you want to have answered that you haven't been able to find online. Of course, get directions, find out where you're going to park so that you won't be stressed out when you get there. When you get there, even if you're like, let's say you're doing a self-guided tour, if the college is not offering tours, you can still go to the campus and just walk around and do a self-guided tour. Make sure you go to the admissions office and sign in, because if they are tracking your contact, that's one piece that they're going to look at, that you visited campus. Take a tour, ask to see any particular places of interest, and ask the tour guide and other students about what life is like on campus. They're going to be really interested to tell you because they're excited about their school. So ask. Things to look for. What's the library like? What is their lab equipment? What do their classrooms look like? Do they look run down or do they look state of the art and really good? The bookstore, religious services, that may be important to you because sometimes you may not be able to get home for the religious holidays that are important to you. So you may want to know if they offer the religious services that are important to you. Does it look nice? Does it make you feel safe? Those are some things you may want to look at. How are the dorms? Are they dirty? Are they crowded? Is there space? Is there quiet space for studying? Meals. You may want to look at the cafeteria, and especially if you have special dietary needs. If you're vegan and you go to a campus, let's say it's a rural campus and they have no vegan food on campus and nowhere to get it around, you're going to have some trouble meeting your dietary needs there. So you're going to want to look at the cafeteria if that's something important to you. Athletics, we talked about. Student services, you may want to look at. And the overall atmosphere, is this a good fit for me? Do I feel good here? And then looking at bulletin boards and kiosks can give you an idea about what goes on campus. So what do you see? Do you see rap concerts, rock and roll concerts? Do you see political events and gatherings? What are they putting up flyers for? So, and is that stuff that you're going to enjoy, or is that stuff that maybe you don't want to be around? What's the surrounding town and city like? So just being aware of everything around you as you visit campus is a good idea. When you talk to students, ask them, what do you like the most and the least about this college? They're going to tell you. They're going to be very excited to tell you. Here's some other questions you may want to ask. How many hours a week do you have to study, and is that normal for all students, or is this just for your major? How easy is it to get the classes you want at registration? Can you get campus jobs? How accessible are faculty members outside of class? What do students do on the weekends? That's a really important thing to ask. How easy or difficult is it to study in your dorm room? What's the library like as a place to study and do research? Or whatever questions are important to you, but ask some questions of the students on campus. Virtual visits are used a lot now because of COVID. They are not the ideal way to get a feel for campus, but they can give you a pretty nice feel of what the campus looks like. And they can also give you an idea of whether or not you actually even want to go there. So these are just a few that I put here. We can look at FAMU real quick because I like this one.
Welcome to Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, FAMU.
So you can drag around, look around. You have your little tour guide here.
Beautiful campus. You can click on the forward-facing arrow to start walking around. You can jump to the next stop by clicking the next button. Now, if you already know where you want to go, you can select any location by using the list.
There's a video message from the president here.
Lastly, remember, you can explore any location in more detail by clicking the supplemental icons. Located on one of the highest hills in Tallahassee, Florida, FAMU is recognized by U.S. News and
So you can get to the next part of campus by clicking this arrow, and then you can walk around the sidewalks with these arrows here. So that's what a virtual tour looks like, basically. You can use the map to jump to different buildings. So live visits are better, but virtual visits are pretty cool. So check those out when you get a chance. These are from a site called UVisit, and they have hundreds and hundreds of colleges there that you can look at. Additional tips: get directions and plan enough time if you're visiting other colleges. Trust your feelings and not the opinions of others. You know, people are going to tell you what they think the school is for you, but you have to trust your gut and trust how you feel when you're on campus, because the school that's right for you is the school that feels right for you. Bring a notebook and write down notes about each school, because after you see a bunch of schools, they will all blur together. So it may be helpful later to look back at those notes and say, oh yeah, this was that thing that I really loved on that one campus. Try not to let outside circumstances influence you, such as bad weather or the personality of the tour guide. Sometimes you just get a bad tour guide who's having a bad day. Try not to judge the entire college on that one tour guide, or that the weather was really bad and so it was kind of dreary there that day. Try not to let that influence your decision on the school overall. And again, remember that the tour is for the student. The student should be the one to sign in and to ask questions. And really, parents, if you can hang out in the background, it will only make things better in the long run. So we also have dozens of college reps that come to our campus to visit with our students. This year, we've had them visit virtually, and that's worked out really well. Students can come and visit with the college reps and ask questions. This is another way that they may track your interest, is if you do this. And it also just gives you an opportunity to meet the person who will most likely be reading your application. So it's a good idea to come prepared with intelligent questions that you cannot find otherwise. So don't come with questions like, what's your admission rate? Because that's going to be right on their website. Come with questions that you can't easily find on the website. Keep in mind that the person who you're talking to is likely going to be reading your application, so you want to make a good impression. Even if you can't stay, it's okay to just come, introduce yourself, and say, hey, listen, I have a test, but I just wanted to thank you for coming to campus. I'm so excited to apply to so-and-so in the fall, and do you have any information I can take with me? And then send them a thank you email after. Thank them for visiting and express interest in the school. Please do not use college rep visits just to miss class, because you shouldn't miss class, first of all, and it's embarrassing in front of the college rep that you're really not there with interest in the school. Obviously, don't behave in a manner that reflects poorly on yourself or on the school. Don't use it as a substitute for a campus visit. You should still visit campus even if you meet the rep here at Park Vista. And don't interrupt the rep with questions or comments until you're invited to do so. Next up, components of the college application package. So we talk about college applications, but there are actually several things that go into what is known as the college application package. So the first thing, obviously, is the application itself, and that can take on a few different forms. So the most common one is the Common App, and most students will use the Common App. I put under here the Florida universities that use the Common App. So the ones that are in yellow use different apps. So there are different ways you can apply. The ones that are in white are only using that one app. So NCF is only on the Common App, but the rest of these have other options. Regardless of the type of application that you choose, you should only choose one kind of application. So if you're applying to Florida Poly with the Common App, you should not then apply to Florida Poly with their institutional app. Pick one and stick with it. The Coalition app has around 140 colleges on it. It's a little less common, but that's another option that you may want to look at as far as your application. An institutional app is the application that the college offers just for that college. So whereas on the Common App, you'll put in all your information, you can apply to several different colleges at once. With the institutional app, you'll only be applying to that one college with that one application. And then the Common Black app will allow you to apply to 60 HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities, with one application and one fee. So, but again, if you're going to use this one to apply to, let's say, FAMU, you wouldn't use then FAMU's institutional app at the same time. You would pick one application. So the Common App and the Coalition app are the most common. Like I said, you'll probably use the Common App. The Common App is much older, more familiar to colleges. It has 7 essay prompts, which have a 650 word maximum. It allows for 10 activities in the activities section with up to 150 characters. And then the Coalition app is fairly new. That just started in 2016. But the difference with the Coalition app is there's more flexibility for multimedia and essay uploads. So if you are trying to submit a video or something like that, you may want to look at the Coalition app. Coalition app only has 5 essay prompts, and there's a 500 to 550 word guideline. So whereas the Common App has a 650 word max, the Common App just has a guideline, and colleges can set their own limits on the Coalition app. Coalition app allows for 8 activities, so less activities than the Common App, but up to 255 characters for each. So it's a matter of preference which one you want to use, but most of you will use the Common App. Other components that go into the college application, you're either going to have to provide a transcript, which which will either be uploaded by your counselor, self-reported, or ordered through Parchment, which is the company that we use to deliver official transcripts to schools. Most of the Florida public universities use what's called the SAR, the Student Self-Reported Academic Record, and you'll report your grades that way. You won't send a transcript until you are accepted and plan to attend that school. So with a transcript, obviously shows the strength of your program, the grades that you earn, also the trend in grades. So do you have an upward trend? Colleges are looking for that too in your transcript. How rigorous are your courses? What courses are you taking senior year? And then senior year grades, we always send mid-year grades. So keep that in mind. There's no senioritis in the college process. We do send senior year grades, and they are taken into consideration in the admissions process. Test scores can either be self-reported or ordered from College Board and ACT. It depends on what the college requires, and that's part of your research, is to find that out. Test scores are generally considered in relation to your overall performance. They either validate your existing record or demonstrate greater potential for achievement. So they're going to be used in conjunction with your grades. Test scores alone, if you have really high test scores and low grades, that's not a good look. That's not going to get you into a school. Your academic transcript is the most important piece, but testing can validate that information. So if your testing is commensurate with your grades, that's really what they're looking for. Also, may or may not be in your college application a counselor recommendation. So get to know your counselor, because your counselor may have to write you a very comprehensive recommendation that talks about your personal and academic qualities, your activities and interests. It's great as a counselor to be able to tell a personal story about my students. So because we want to be able to present you in the best light, please get to know your counselor. Teacher recommendations, some schools will take, some schools won't, but they will describe your strengths as a student and the growth that you achieved throughout the course, what projects you undertook in the class, quality of written work, and how you participate in class. That's what a teacher recommendation should show. Essays and supplements. You will definitely have at least one essay, and that will be most likely your Common App essay. And that will give the college information about how you write and who you are. We'll talk more about the essay a little bit later. Some schools will have supplements that are shorter questions that they're going to ask you, usually used to gauge interest in the school or to elaborate on interests and activities. A lot of schools will ask you, why do you want to attend here? Which is a really, really important question that you're going to want to answer really in depth. Also, for our current students, there's a question now about how COVID has impacted the student, which is a great opportunity to explain, especially if there was a drop in grades during COVID, or any adversity that you faced as a result of COVID. They are giving you an opportunity to explain that. So look for that when you're doing your Common App. An activities section or resume, you should have a resume, because colleges are going to say, if you would like to upload a resume, upload it here. So they're going to make it sound like that's optional. But something I want you to know about the college process is nothing is ever optional. If they give you the option to do it, definitely do it, because the other student who looks a lot like you academically may do it, and then they're going to have a leg up on you. So take your time and do all of the things that you have the opportunity to do on these college applications, because you only have one shot to do it. So make that resume and put all of your achievements on there and all of your work experience and your community service. I just want to note, as far as activities, greater involvement and achievement in a few significant activities are more impressive than superficial involvement in many. Colleges want to see that you're committed to something or a couple of things. But if you try to join every club and do everything all over the place so that you have a 3-page resume, it's not going to work. So don't even put yourself through that. Get involved in something that you really care about, and that's what colleges really want to see. Interview, some colleges will offer them, some colleges won't. There are 2 different kinds of interviews. There are evaluative interviews and informative interviews. Evaluative interviews, the person will take notes and put it in your file. It will be part of the application process. And informative interviews will just give you information. Also supplementary materials. Some colleges will allow you to upload or send in other things with your application, especially if you are applying to an art program or a music or dance program. They'll allow you to submit videos or recordings. Art portfolio will be required for a lot of art programs, but they may let you upload it even if you're not applying to an art program, just as something supplemental. Original creative writing. Zeme is a program where you can make a little video, and you'll see when you go through your college applications, if they're giving you an opportunity to make a Zeme, you should make a little Zeme for them. It's just a little video introducing yourself and saying who you are. And some of them may allow you to submit additional recommendations from an employer or a coach or a peer. So again, these are all things that in your research, you're going to want to find out if the school allows you to do those things. And if they do, you should. Okay, so the college essay, super important. Almost all colleges will require at least 1 essay, and they'll use your writing, first of all, to see if you can write and if you can communicate your thoughts and your ideas, because that's obviously a really important skill to have. But also, it gives you an opportunity to personalize your application and really show who you are and why you do the things you do. So they're going to see your grades, they're going to see your activities, but this is your opportunity to really distinguish yourself as a unique individual and tell them why you do the things you do. What's important to you? What are your values? The essay is also a really cool thing because it's the only place where the student really has control. By the time you are applying to college, there's nothing really you can do about your GPA. Your test scores pretty much are what they are. Your activities are what they are. But your essay is where you have the control. So I want to show you a very short video from some admissions reps talking about how to write a strong essay.
Once we're looking at essay, we're going to be looking at things like their ability to write well and their preparation for college. But we're also using that information to kind of see things like their resilience and their love of learning, their intellectual curiosity.
I always tell a student, you know, if you had the chance to come meet with the admissions committee and present yourself in person, would you want to do it? And without fail, students say, yeah, I'd love to have that opportunity. And when I ask why, they say because if they were able to get to know the admissions committee would want to admit them because they would know them and they would get to know what they're about and what makes them unique and special.
The essay is really neat. It's one of the only places in the application where they have complete control. They can write about the things that they've been involved in, the things that they've done.
One piece of advice I would give to every student is to ask someone who knows them a little bit to read their essay and to tell them what impressions they have of you after reading the essay.
I think the essays that work best are actually quite simple. I think students get really caught up in thinking that this essay has to encompass your entire life and it has to be groundbreaking and publishable quality. And that's a lot to ask of a high school student. So I always advise students to stick to the simple things that you know. And the essays that stand out the most in my mind are about simple things, very everyday topics.
I have seen some amazing essays about things like students walking their dog or even their bus ride to school.
I think our hope is that if a student were to drop the essay on the floor of their high school and someone were to pick it up that didn't have your name on it, that they'd say for sure, oh, I know that this is so-and-so's essay because it speaks so much about your voice and your experiences and your perspective.
I think my favorite essay that I've ever read came from a student in the Midwest, and he wrote about working at a fast food restaurant. He wrote about how people were treating him as they went to the drive-thru and how he was treating them back. He called himself an undercover anthropologist, which admittedly was a little nerdy in a brown sort of way. But I liked his essay because I was able to see what he was seeing and feel what he was feeling. So for the purposes of the application, where we as admission officers are trying to get to know the applicant, that's a great asset.
All right. So I hope that was helpful. Just about overthinking the essay. Essays can and should be really simple. A couple of other tips for students with writing the essay: write your own essay. Other people might help you edit. You should always have at least a second set of eyes go over it, because there are some things that spell check aren't going to pick up. But the essay has to be in your own voice. Admissions officers obviously are expert application readers, and they can tell the difference between a teenage voice and a 45-year-old voice. So don't let anybody over edit your essay or write your essay for you. That is a big, big mistake. That is an automatic denial in college admissions. Write your own essay and let one or two people look at it who you trust, but not over edit it. Be honest. Show your strengths as well as your challenges. Don't write what you think they want to hear, because there's really nothing they want to hear. They just want to know who you are. So be yourself. Be sincere, be genuine, and be direct. Use the essay to reinforce information found elsewhere in your application. Develop common themes in your activities which reflect your personalities. Show your depth of interest and involvement. However, don't just repeat the information that's noted elsewhere in the application. So they're already going to have your activities and your resume. Just rehashing your resume is not a good idea. But so let's say you're a singer and your whole application shows singer. It's all over. It's in your transcript. You've taken classes for singing. It's in your activities. It's in your awards. And then you write your essay about how much you love computer science. Well, that might be kind of weird. But if you write about why you sing and where that came from, that would be a great way to supplement all the other information in your application. So that's what we mean by developing common themes, just making it make sense. So other tips: emphasize what's important to you. May include your priorities, your values, or personal challenges you've confronted. And you'll see the prompts for the essay. You may have a story to tell that matches one of those prompts that may be about personal challenges that you've had in your life. Pay careful attention to directions. A lot of the questions are 2- or 3-part questions. So they won't just say, tell us about a personal challenge. They'll say, tell us about a personal challenge and how that affected you. So you want to pay attention to exactly what the question is asking. Obviously, proofread carefully. You want to be careful about punctuation, grammar, spelling, and usage. Ask someone else to look over your essay for that. And remember that you're writing to real people, and very often really young people. So, tell them what you really want to know, again, in your own voice. But be careful about how you share sensitive information or really strong opinions. Again, that's a good reason to have somebody else look it over and ask them, what's the impression that you get of me by reading this essay? Please do answer the question asked. Organize your thoughts before sitting down to write. So maybe make yourself some bullet points. Think small and write about something you know. Reveal yourself. Show rather than tell. So give examples. Don't just say, I'm a really good person, but tell a story about how you might be a good person. Bring yourself to life. Write in your own voice and style again and make it personal. Don't just repeat your activities or accomplishment that they've already seen in other places in your application. Don't write what you think others want to read. Don't exaggerate or write to impress or use flowery, inflated, or pretentious styles. So you don't have to use a thesaurus and use giant words. It's actually going to be kind of awkward if you do, because that's just not how teenagers talk. So try not to ramble. Say what you have to say and conclude. And that will come with the editing process of your essay. And again, don't throw in big words to impress, because it's probably going to do the opposite. So now for everyone's favorite topic, testing. College admissions tests like the SAT and ACT are usually taken first in the spring of junior year, and then a couple more times if you choose. Each college has its own policies and use scores differently. They're just one part of your application, and colleges will place the most weight on your high school grades and whether you're challenging yourself. I do want to note that more and more colleges and universities are moving to test optional, and that was happening before COVID. But once COVID hit, with all the challenges that students were seeing with taking these tests, a huge, huge majority of colleges in the country are now test optional, or test blind, not looking at test scores at all. So you can find a full list of test optional institutions at fairtest.org. All of the Florida public universities are still requiring test scores as of now, but they have said that they're going to be placing less weight on the test scores for the upcoming admission cycle, which is good news for some of our students. So the ACT and the SAT are different tests. Schools won't make a value judgment on which test you take. You should take both of them at least once to see which one you're more comfortable with and which one you may do better on. And then take that one once or twice again. So if you like the ACT, you did better on the ACT, maybe take that one or two more times. This is a comparison chart of the differences between the ACT and the SAT. There are differences in scoring, length, reading, and writing. Math in particular is something that some students may want to look at when comparing the ACT with the SAT, because the ACT is one 60-minute session, and they allow a calculator for the entire math section. For the SAT calculator, it's 2 math sections, and calculators are only allowed in 1 math section. So that may be something that you may want to take into consideration when you're looking at these 2 tests. The ACT is a bit more fast-paced, so that may be something you may want to take into consideration. I put a little scribble scrabble over the essay portion of the SAT because they have eliminated the essay portion as of July of this year. So great news for a lot of our students. They feel a little bit less pressure. There will not be an essay on the SAT, but the essay on the ACT is still optional. You don't have to take that for most schools. AP exams, if you've taken AP courses, they can be used to show mastery in college level courses. You can self-report them on the application. You should not report AP exams that are lower than a 4 or 5. It's not going to help you, and it may actually hurt you. AP exam scores will not make or break an application, but it doesn't mean that AP classes aren't important, because that adds to the weight of your curriculum, and your readiness for college level work is gauged through the rigor of your curriculum. So if you are recommended for AP courses, or if you apply for them and you are accepted into them, we always recommend that you take them. You may get college credit out of them and test out of some of the prerequisites in college, which again will save you time and money. So now would usually be the questions portion of the coffee talk, but of course we're not in person this year. So if you have any questions, please contact your school counselor. Your school counselor is a college admissions expert and will be able to help you with any questions you may have. So thank you so much for joining us today, and happy college hunting. Bye.